Hey nerds, in this video Nathan and I review and do a spoiler breakdown of The Last of Us, episode 8, titled When We Are in Need, written by Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, directed by Ali Abbasi, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social, I'm John.
And I'm Nathan.
All right nerds, we are going to be doing a spoiler-free review of this. The summary logline is: Ellie crosses paths with a vengeful group of survivors and draws the attention of its leader. A weakened Joel faces a new threat. Nathan, what did you think of this episode?
It was a really great episode. This you continue to see how the relationship between Joel and Ellie is deepening. It's a little difficult to talk about this episode because of some of the things that happen in it. It's shocking in a lot of places. It actually started a little bit slow for me, but yikes, the end of this episode, like the last 10, 15, 20 minutes of this episode is like crazy. Bella Ramsey is doing exceptional work in this episode. She has to demonstrate a whole range of emotions from like A to Z here, and she definitely has the nuance to actually show in the range to show that. There's some stuff that happens at the end of this episode with her, but even in the beginning of the episode when things aren't going as crazy, you definitely see how well she has been trained. If you remember from last week, how poorly she was trained by Pedro, as compared to how well she's been trained by Joel.
Yes.
Like the night and day. Last week she and her friend weren't able to shoot a infected running after them, even though they had a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And but you see how skilled she is now. That's also an interesting development to see how she's coming into her own over the course of the last several episodes as well. So yeah, it was a really great episode. Under our rating system, our new rating system, I'd probably give it an 8, which is a road trip, which is means. But I would definitely go to the movie theater to see this. It was definitely. Like a lot of the episodes in the season, it's kind of a self-contained story. I mean, it's definitely connected to the rest of the story, but it's kind of like a one-off because we meet new people,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a whole drama around those new people. So yeah, it was a good episode. What did you think?
I also thought it was a very good episode. I also rated it an 8 as well, 8 out of 10. Very intense. Lots more action in this one, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
but like you said, it's definitely a showcase. It's a Bella
Mm-hmm.
Ramsey show in this one here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Similar to a lot of the focus on her last episode, but definitely different emotions, different settings, different predicaments here, to where she is just shining. I mean, if anybody came to any actor, it's like an actor's dream to have this range of emotions, types of scenery that you can or scenes they can act in, especially from back-to-back episodes, to be able to display this range as well. It's the Bella Ramsey show in this one. Now Pedro Pascal, he definitely has some moments here as well, but I think this is really more heavily focused on Ellie, depending upon simply because of certain situations that Joel is in compared to what Ellie is in this episode. But I still felt like this episode was a little rushed in the story. It's thrilling, don't get me wrong, but there's some elements that were rushed, and I'll definitely get into that as part of spoilers.
Yeah, I know that there's some elements that were cut of this chapter from the game, and we can talk about that. I've heard, and just understanding some of those elements, I think having. If what you're talking about is what I'm thinking about,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been an interesting element to add.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we can talk about it when we talk about spoilers. But yeah, I still think it was a fairly solid episode, just because of what Ellie goes through, like the gambit that she goes through, and it speaks to, I think, the creator of the game. What is his name?
Neil Druckmann.
Neil Druckmann. I think he was responding to someone online like around episode 3 when they were very upset about the that episode. That Ellie has always been like the main character of the of the game, and to a certain extent the show as well. So and you definitely get to see that in the last couple episodes.
Yeah. That
the focus has shifted.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. Neil Druckmann has never shied away from engaging fans, engaging the folks who are not on board with certain decisions, even made in the game. So over the years, I've had a chance to see the way he just kind of spits it right back at people, and he does it very graciously and gracefully as well. So it's no surprise to me Neil's doing that, and at the same time he stands his ground. He stands by his story and the story elements in this, and the show is no different. He's definitely going about. If anything, he leans heavily into it, more into it.
Yeah.
Even more than the game. So that's good to see.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So you want to talk about it, I guess?
Yep. Yeah, let's get into spoilers. Before we do, everyone, those of you in the audience, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel so that way we can get you more of what you like to see. So, right up there. All right, so spoiler warning coming up. All right, Nathan, let's get into it. Spoiler talk. Where do you want to start?
Do you want to start at the end, or start? I mean, there's all kinds of things we talked about over the last day or so because we got screeners.
Yeah.
We're gonna assume that you watched the episode. If you haven't watched the episode, I guess we can go in chronological order, but I'd actually like to jump around a little bit because the David of it all. So you've watched you played the game, so you know what the big reveal with David and his group was going to be, and unfortunately it was spoiled for me.
Yeah.
Because we do this, I try to do a little bit of research, and it was kind of spoiled for me that they were a cannibal group. But I wonder how someone who didn't know that information, how this episode played, because I never trusted David because I knew that it was a cannibal group. But I wonder if like someone who did not know that information was lulled into a false sense of security the same way that Ellie was in this episode, because she of course was very protective of Joel and also very skeptical of David and. Yep. His man, what was the other guy's name? James. Yeah. Like she, and this is also what I was talking about by her skill level like increasing. Like she didn't hit the deer, but she at least she didn't kill the deer. She did hit it though. It was in a kill shot, so she's getting better.
Yeah.
And she when she came upon them, she got the drop on them without them actually hearing her.
Yeah.
And she disarmed them while keeping the gun on them. So yeah. I think that's all like Joel's teaching. Yeah. So she was very skeptical of them, and then she sat down with David, and David has this whole story, and you see her guard going down when he says that I was a teacher and I taught kids around your age. So I wonder if someone who didn't know he was going to be a cannibal.
Yeah. So imagine all that, Nathan. Imagine seeing David for the first time with James, with the deer, right? Imagine that's your opening. That's how you're introduced to David, and then you had to sit down with David. I think that would have been a lot stronger, or it hit a little bit harder, knowing that that's the David we're introduced to. But instead, we got that cold open. Well, was it a cold open? The opening where we're introduced to David preaching to everybody. And
right.
You can tell there was something weird about the guy.
Yeah,
already,
there
right?
there was definitely some weird. There was telegraphing to the audience, like I said, like the whole we're not gonna bury.
Yeah, right. And not only that, you see that, and everyone I don't know. I got the sense like, okay, not only did the viewer in me sense that this guy's not all there, but it doesn't look like everybody else is kind of on board either, right?
Yeah, they're all very quiet. They're all
Yeah.
very like they're listless or whatever. It's like I understand why the girl and the wife would be really upset about the death, but like I don't know. They live in the apocalypse. People die all the time.
Correct.
I don't know why everyone would be so. I mean, instead of like huddling around them and trying to comfort them, they're all like very subdued
Yeah.
and enthralled to everything that he's saying. So he doesn't seem like he does. He already. They start the episode off making him look more menacing, the kind of menacing. So
Yeah.
yeah. So maybe someone from the outside looking in never trusted him,
Yeah.
based on
So like,
how they started the episode.
yeah. So to compare it to the game, in the game, you don't get that opening with David. In fact, the first introduction is when Ellie meets them for the first time in the forest. So to me, it actually hit me the way I would have expected this audience would be hit with David or the introduction David. You, the guy looks and sound unassuming. Yes, Ellie. In fact, it just plays off like it comes off as Ellie being over paranoid in the situation, or maybe too careful or something, and she's just not letting her guard down. And then finally, as you have additional conversations with David, he seems to be okay. He seems to be all right, and she's just, she's all right. She's cool, right?
Yeah.
And then later on, when things are getting more and more revealed, like in this episode too, that's when everyone, especially the gamer playing as Ellie in this part, you realize, oh crap, this guy is not all there. He's definitely
Right.
a bad guy after all. And so again, that sleight of hand misdirection, or at least putting enough doubt into the viewer, I think would have been much more effective. I mean, don't get me wrong, the guy did a great job, Scott Shepard as David, regardless, but I think it just would have hit a little bit better. That's what I mean by kind of rushed. It just felt like it was a little rushed in that, okay, if you're going to introduce him this way as already kind of unhinged, I thought you got to take it back a little bit. Take it back to where, hey, show him a little bit more normal. And that way,
Right.
it'll, as you said, it was putting Ellie at ease to where she was letting her guard down just a little bit, but it just came right back up again because, James shows up with the gun and so forth. By the way, James, played by Troy Baker. Troy Baker did the voice of Joel in the video game, and so he also has a cameo in this game, in this show.
I think the other change that they made, I heard, is that they further bond in the game by fighting off infected. So she begins to not just the conversation that she has with him, but because they save each other's lives.
Correct. Yep.
Through the gameplay, which was missing here. And I thought that's what you meant when we were talking in the spoiler free section, about missing elements and rushed elements, because I think that would have further solidified their bond, and maybe taking the time to do that. Although this episode is actually pretty long. So maybe it was in there, or maybe they thought about adding that, but they decided to leave it and keep it to the human drama. But yeah, it was. I think you're right. They telegraphed early on, and also in different places, that they were cannibals. When they ended up taking the buck, and then there's this kitchen scene.
Yes.
And the woman specifically says, "What is that?"
Yeah.
And he pauses and says, "It's venison." First of all, why would she have to ask what it
Correct.
is?
Yeah.
And then why does he pause so long? And then and then the next scene out of the kitchen, you see that the deer hasn't been like dressed at all. It hasn't been broken down. Yeah. So it's not the deer. So yeah, there are definitely lots of hints before Ellie finds out.
Yeah, veterans of watching zombie movies and TV shows, especially The Walking Dead, would have guessed that immediately, right? Like you said, they could telegraph the hell out of that thing.
I mean, and maybe they wanted to do it that way. Maybe they didn't want it to seem like it was kind of out of nowhere. Like, you don't want to. I guess as a writer, in general, you don't want to make things come out of nowhere, because that's generally thought of as bad writing. You want your your audience to go along with your journey, even if you do something very subtle. They can go back and say, "Oh, there were elements here, here, and here." Um, I think I was talking about this last week when we were reviewing the third episode of Picard. Like, there's this villain that shows up in that episode, but you saw him in the other two episodes. Even if you saw him in the background, you saw him. So he's not like some villain out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That just pops up. So if you're a good writer, you don't just have things come out of nowhere, because it's not. Then it's the story is just random. It's not really a story.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they were a little bit too heavy-handed with the hints. Maybe they could have been subtler with the hints.
Yeah.
So still pepper some of those hints in there, but like not make you distrust David altogether. And just always and kind of like yell at the screen that she shouldn't be dropping her guard.
Yeah, that setup right there. I thought they did a little too much. Even my wife watching next to me, even though she knows I played the game before, she says, "Uh-oh, what kind of meat is that?" So she's even asking the same thing when that scene pops up. But I wanted to go back to that first encounter when Ellie had him in her sights, and she basically negotiated for medicine for Joel. Immediately she asked for that, since David offered a trade for the deer that she shot. And
right.
I thought that was great. Again, you really feel for Ellie, the character, and that she's trying to help Joel. She's trying to get him to be better again. He's still convalescing. He's still incapacitated on that bed in the basement, and she comes and brings the antibiotics. She doesn't even know how to do it right. And
the insulin, yeah. She doesn't know where to
she doesn't know where to stick that thing, and once she gives him the shot and she's laying down next to him, I thought that was a great shot there as well, indicating that she really needs Joel to come back, and she really feels for the guy.
Yeah, he a lot of things had to happen for him to be alive, because you really can't just give people insulin shots of any and just randomly stick them. There's a lot of math that's required to actually give them.
Was that insulin or was it antibiotics? I thought it was antibiotics.
Sorry, not insulin. You can't give people like antibiotics without like doing some math about how much to give them given their weight and stuff like that. So like, I didn't watch this with my wife, but she probably would have been yelling at the screen as a doctor.
Of course, I'm sure
about that. He lucked out, and he eventually came to, and it looked like they the way that they set it up when she was trapped, the way that it made you think that he was going to save her at the last minute, but she never got saved. She had to save herself, which is what I was talking about when I said like the range of emotions. Like, she's very worried for Joel at the beginning. She's doing whatever she can to try to save him. She's hardened to a little bit. That's why she's suspicious of David. Then in the conversation, you can see like her softening when he mentions the religious stuff, and also like teaching kids around her age. And then at the end, like the horror on her face, like when he's on top of her, and when she reaches for the cleaver and she hacks into his head, and then at the end when Joel like catches up with her, like the expression on her face, she's like, she's doing a lot in this episode.
Oh,
she's
traumatized. She's absolutely traumatized, and that scene in the what was it?
The
restaurant, dining hall.
Restaurant.
The place is burning. So that part right there is very much just like the game. She's trying to get away from him, and David's hunting her down, and he just won't shut up. He's trying to draw her out, and again, when she finally does get the upper hand, and chops into bits, or at least that's what you think is happening. So while she
I
has her,
mean, she's right over top of him, and
yeah,
she's chopping straight down. So I think that's his head. There's not it's probably unrecognizable as a head after she's chopped a lot of
oh
times.
yeah, this
So
I'm sure it doesn't have shape anymore after that
yeah,
one there.
yeah,
So while she's going
yeah,
through her ordeal, Joel is trying to hunt her or trying to find her, and he's systematically taken out,
right,
despite the fact that he's not fully 100%. And you can
yeah,
tell that this dude is just on a rampage, Terminator mode, basically,
yeah.
right?
So there's debate about whether or not he's a good or bad guy, and I don't think that he's a good or bad guy. I think he's gray, and you can actually see it in this episode. There, he kills people he doesn't have to
Yep.
kill.
Yeah.
And like in kind of like not in like easy fashion, like in some brutal fashion too. Like it's like he's taken some, not necessarily glee. I don't know. Maybe it's glee. Um, but those guys and that whole scene with the map. He could have incapacitated them to a certain extent, so they couldn't follow. He could have killed
Yep.
them more humanely.
Yeah.
um,
But no, he's a killing machine, and it doesn't
yeah,
bother him one bit because clearly he's done it all before, right?
right.
And that's what I mean by Terminator mode too. It's no emotion, just he's got to get it done, and
Yeah,
he's just getting it done, and damn anyone getting
yeah.
in his way to find Ellie.
And we see hints. Yeah, without talking about the next episode. Yeah, this is a hint of how he can be,
Yeah.
because we haven't seen this before. But yeah, this is yeah. It was troubling. But if you're troubled by this,
So he's on a one-man mission to find Ellie, and finally he does find her at the steakhouse or
yeah,
restaurant or dining hall, wherever that is, and he's already too late. Ellie's already had to take care of it, and she's running out of the house, and he finds her, and she doesn't recognize him, not immediately. She's
well, he pats on her back from behind when she's already like in a very she starts to yell. She's someone else has
yeah,
caught her. Like she thought she got away. She definitely, like David can't get up, but maybe there's someone else, and she starts to yell because she's traumatized. Yeah, yeah, it's it, yeah, Ellie is probably going to be broken a little bit. All the other stuff, all the stuff with Sam
exactly.
it didn't break her. This is definitely gonna break her. So yeah, it was Bella Ramsey did a great job. Just trying to think what else in this episode. So yeah, Joel eventually gets up. He kills, I think, 3 guys.
At least 3.
At least 3 guys. And then he's the one that actually sees the bodies hanging up. This is after Ellie figures out what they do. Yeah, and then there's this speech that David gives to her in the cage about him seeing there being so much alike, and she has a violent heart and he has a violent heart. That's the point where I was when I messaged you a couple days ago, and I said, do you get a sense that he was like a serial killer? Like he says that he was a teacher, but a lot of serial killers have like regular jobs.
Serial killer
there was
slash pedophile / rapist / I mean, you name it all.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He said he had a violent heart. It's unclear if he acted on it, but I get a sense, just the way that he acts, that he did act on it, and he was never caught, and he found a new grift. Like he was able to create a flock around his confidence or whatever. Because I mean, the other thing that he says is that I'm a shepherd with a bunch of sheep, and I need another shepherd. So yeah, I also get a sense from this conversation that he doesn't really believe any of the Bible stuff. It's just a tool, because his religion is the cordyceps. He said that he saw the cordyceps cordyceps loves, and it also will use violence to protect the ones that it loves. So yeah,
Just a tad
he's a,
twisted.
he was a, he, yeah, a
Just a
tad, a
tad.
tad, yeah. So yeah, he was an interesting character. In evil, I like unequivocally evil character.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen comparisons over the last couple of days of him being the devil, kind of like whispering things that you want to hear in your ear, but like always, but actually evil. So, especially the imagery of him, of all the flames behind him later on, you
Oh
definitely
yeah.
get you definitely get imagery or allusions to hell and him being the arbiter, because it doesn't seem to bother him at all that the whole dining hall is burning down. He wants to get to her, and yeah, I don't know what he was gonna do when he got on top of her while all the flames are going. In his statement about like, you should know that I like the struggle. Yeah, he's not.
Oh, he likes to fight.
He likes to fight. He
He
likes
likes
to
to
fight.
fight.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's shit
Yeah.
rapists say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but at the end, when Joel does find Ellie, he calls her baby girl. He calls her baby girl, which is
Yeah. Which is
what he
what he
was
called
using with
his.
his daughter.
Yeah. Which is great, but also probably unhealthy because this is not his daughter. Yeah, I'll just say that it's probably unhealthy.
Yeah,
I don't think it's actually dealing with the death of his daughter. I think it's transference, which
it is transference. Yeah,
yeah. So I understand feeling affection for her, but she is not his daughter.
yeah,
And I think they're in a very, there's love there, but it's also a codependent relationship that is unhealthy in some ways as well, and because they're bonded through trauma at this point.
correct.
Um, so yeah, that's all I'll say about that. So yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of that episode. Nathan, any other final thoughts on this episode?
No, I mean, it was cool to find out that Troy Baker was in this episode, but they didn't really give him a lot of lines.
No, they didn't.
He got to go out like in a spectacularly cool way, I guess, with the cleaver to the neck. So I'm sure he got to get a nice prosthetic reg for that, but they didn't really give him much to do there. But yeah, and I guess we find out that the guy that Joel killed before he got stabbed was that Hannah's father as well.
Correct.
But, I guess yeah.
Yeah, at the university.
Yeah.
Who stabbed him? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
yeah, the only
go ahead.
thing that I wanted to point out was if you were to compare the game to this show too, everything pretty much falls right in line. We talked
Mhm.
about what things they may have cut out and some new things they added in, which was the whole opening scene. But in the game, for those that have not played, this is the only section of the game you get to play as Ellie. So you get to play as Ellie. Everything is from Joel's perspective, including you playing as Joel. You're trying to find her, and you're systematically taking out each of the guys to try to get to her, and then it finally cuts to for the first time her perspective, and she's trying to escape David, and so it's thrilling in the game just as much. So.
Cool.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. Again, for those of you who would like to see more of this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, everyone. Bye.
All right. Thanks, guys.